Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to this public program of the Eastern Region and our Eastern Region Convention. My name is Brother Reverend Dr. Adrian Nelson. I am the Vice President of the Montgomery County chapter and working with the local host committee. We're going to begin this evening with some remarks from members of our D9 family. And so we're going to ask that they come and that they share with us in this particular order. We're happy to welcome Ms. Tracy Terrell, who is with Theta Omega Omega chapter, and she is here on behalf of the regional director, Alicia Pegues Spearman.
To Christopher G. Ellis, Regional Vice President East, Lucian J. Metellus, General President, and the distinguished brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Good evening. Will my esteemed sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated please rise? On behalf of Alicia Pegues Spearman, Esquire, Regional Director of the notable North Atlantic region of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and more than 16,000 sorors who proudly serve from the scenic shores of Maine to our nation's capital, the birthplace of our cherished pink and green, Washington, D.C. I am delighted to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to you all. I am Tracy Terrell, President of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Theta Omega Omega chapter, proudly located here in Montgomery County, the epicenter of biotech innovation and a community brimming with promise. As members of two trailblazing organizations, we understand the weight and the honor of being first. First to lead, first to serve, and first to inspire. Our shared legacy is one of wisdom, courage, friendship, and an unyielding commitment to uplifting those around us. Service is etched in our hearts. Scholarship fuels our minds. Authentic friendship binds us. And excellence is the standard we uphold with pride and purpose. Together, our dedication to empowering communities and igniting change is a testament to the unstoppable force of unity. Truly, when the pretty girls of Alpha Kappa Alpha and the ice-cold brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha joined forces, the world cannot help but take notice. As you embark on this Eastern Region Convention, may you be reminded of the rich history and enduring legacy of leadership that defines your fraternity. May your discussions spark innovation, your connections deepen with meaning, and your commitment to excellence shine brighter than ever. Let this gathering be a celebration of purpose, a tribute to brotherhood, and renewal of the passion that drives us all to serve and uplift. On behalf of the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, I wish you an enriching, inspiring, and successful convention. Together, let us continue to lead, serve, and elevate with excellence. Vice President Chris, since this is your last conference, on behalf of my regional director, Alicia Pegues Spearman, we extend congratulations on a term well served. Please accept this congratulatory token from Director Spearman.
Next, we will have a representative from Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Colonel Retired David Patterson, who is here for Amir Sharif, 2nd District Representative.
So I bring greetings on behalf of Amir Sharif. I would first like to say to the Regional Vice President, Christopher Ellis, thank you for having us here. We appreciate you and what Alpha Phi Alpha does for our nation, for our communities, and the outreach in which they provide. It's definitely a pleasure to be here amongst great men. And as a youth, I would say when I was young in my fraternity, there were many stovepipes in which all of us did our own things. But one thing that the military has taught me is that The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, they need each other. The Marines go in first, right? Then comes the Army to secure the area. Then the Air Force and Navy all have a part. Where am I going with this? As part of the Divine Nine, we all have shared interests in the world, in our communities. And now is the time in which we all need to continue to work together even closer, in which to make our communities great. Because we are all under attack now, and what I will tell you is that together we can get through this, we can restore the faith of our youth, and then we can guide them in the paths in which we need them to go. And we can do this together. We can do this together. So that's one thing the 35 years that I've spent in Omega has taught me, that all of us, the Divine Nine, needs each other. We need to continue to work close together. I would say I wish you a successful Eastern Region Convention. I pray that you get the work done that you need, and I wish you Godspeed. Thank you.
At this time, representing Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we have Mrs. Barbara Boney, who was the president of the Montgomery County, Maryland Alumni Chapter.
Thank you very much for introducing me. Again, I want to just say I am the president of the Montgomery County, Maryland Alumni Chapter. I want to tell you a little bit about our chapter. And first, before I say congratulations on you all coming together, working together, and collaborating together, and moving forward to do great things as one of the Divine Nine organizations. And I echo what my brother said here. We as a Divine Nine need to pull together and change the world. We have the power to do it. But let me tell you about our chapter in Montgomery County. We have been here 55 years. We just celebrated our 55th anniversary. We were chartered on March 7th. 1970 by 28 dynamic women in this county who wanted to make this county a better place to live for guess who? Black African American people. So I'm excited to be able to stand on their shoulders today and stand before you in this great assembly. And I say great assembly because whenever our brothers come together, we do great things. I also want to tell you, I am the 19th president, and we currently have 377 dynamic, excellent, outstanding, wonderful Delta women changing this beautiful and wonderful county. I want to tell you what our motto is and what we stand on as an organization. We stand on service, scholarship, sisterhood, and social action. And that's what we're here today to tell you. We push forward together for those, and you all, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the service, the scholarship, fundraising, making our children successful. And so I say to you, congratulations. Yeah, I know you're going to have a great conference. Thank you for the opportunity to call me up and have a few words on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. Thank you.
We want to acknowledge that there is a member of Zeta Phi Beta, and there may be others that are throughout the room, but we do want to acknowledge that there is a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and we thank you for coming. The last member of the Divine Nine family that we're aware of is Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, and we want to thank Miss Unique Gray, who is the Area 1 coordinator. She will now come and bring greetings.
Greetings. I'm actually speaking on behalf of Unique Gray. I am Dr. Deatrice Wallace, the Bacillus of Eta Theta Sigma chapter here in Silver Springs, Maryland. Esteemed brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, greetings from the Spirited Sisters of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, Incorporated. It is with immense pleasure and fraternal warmth that I stand before you today, representing our sorority and carrying the special greeting from our dedicated syntactees, Dawn Stanton. We gather here at your 2025 Eastern Region Convention, a testament to the enduring strength and vital engagement of Alpha Phi Alpha in this region. This public meeting serves as a powerful demonstration of your commitment to transparency, community connection, and the sharing of your impactful work. Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated deeply admires the legacy of Alpha Phi Alpha, your unwavering dedication to scholarship, your profound commitment to leadership development, and your tireless efforts in providing selfless service. Your contributions have not only enriched the lives of your members, but have also made an indelible mark on the broader community, both here in the East and beyond. As a fellow member of the National Panhellenic Council, we recognize the unique and vital role of Alpha Phi Alpha in our collective mission to uplift and empower. We value the bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood that unite us and the collective spirit that strengthens our impact. To the brothers of the Eastern region, may this convention be a time of fruitful deliberation, renewed inspiration, and strengthened bonds of brotherhood. May your public meeting illuminate the impactful initiatives underway and inspire even greater engagement within your communities. We, the Sisters of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, extend our best wishes for a successful and impactful convention. May your light continue to shine brightly. Thank you.
As we transition to the next phase of our program, we're going to invite up Brother Reverend Dr. Damone Paul Johnson, who was the Eastern Regional Chaplain, and he's the pastor of Metropolitan New Testament Baptist Church and a brother in Beta Phi Lambda chapter.
Please join me in prayer. Our Father and our strong God, we thank you for today and how excellent is thy name in all the earth, our Lord, our Lord. Because in your presence is the fullness of joy, and at your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Because it's in you that we live and we move and we have our being, we invoke your presence to be with us on tonight. Lord, let the words of our mouths, the meditations of our hearts, let them be acceptable in thy sight, you who are our strength and our Redeemer. Amen.
At this time, we ask you to give a warm Alpha welcome to our Chief of Staff for the Eastern Region, Brother Marvin L. Vinay, who will serve as our facilitator for the rest of the program.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. Can you hear me back? All right. We have a few elected officials in the room tonight that we would like to acknowledge, and if I call your name, I'm going to ask you to stand and that we can give you a round of applause and recognize your contributions. Montgomery County Council Member Andrew Friedson. Thank you. State Delegate Charlotte Crutchfield. Thank you. And State Delegate Janelle Wilkins. Thank you. Uh-oh. There we go. Why are we here tonight? We're sitting in a moment in this country when there are things going on that are causing us to really have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves a lot of questions. The landscape of social justice is shifting beneath our feet. Our communities are calling, and not just for our presence, but for principled, powerful leadership. And who better to answer that call than alpha men? And at this time, I'm going to ask our three panelists to join me on the stage as we begin a conversation on laying the foundation and building a legacy to change the landscape of America. At this time, I'm going to ask you to receive our three panelists. Brother Isaiah Ike Leggett. Okay. Listen, he known here. My apologies. Good brother. Brother Don Cravens and Brother Rick Hart. Can we give a round of applause? I'm going to talk about your bios very quickly because you all are some amazing leaders in your own right, and we could be here for the rest of the evening talking about accolades. Keep it up. All right. All right. I appreciate you all. You want to do that? Okay. All right.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate you all's patience. And I don't want any jokes after this, okay? All right. So, Brother Ike, from a four-room house in segregated Louisiana. All right. I'm going to hold this microphone right here. All right. There we go. Brother Ike, from a four-room house in segregated Louisiana to becoming the first African-American county executive in Montgomery County, Maryland, your life has been a master class in courage and calling. You're a Bronze Star, he's a Bronze Star veteran, a four-degree scholar, a legal mind who has taught at Howard Law for 30 years, and a servant who's led with character in every role from the battlefield to the ballot box. When history needed a man to lead, you've stepped up and you have never flinched. Can we give him a round of applause? Brother Cravens, your resume reads like a blueprint for national impact. He's a former Louisiana state senator, a decorated JAG officer, which is a Judge Advocate General's Corps, and was appointed by President Joe Biden as the first ever Undersecretary of Commerce for Minority Business Development. He led the MBDA's efforts to support over 9 million minority-owned businesses across the U.S., not in theory, but in action. He has served at nearly every level of government, and he's still pushing forward as the president of Pinchback Group, guiding institutions through complexities towards progress. Please give Brother Cravens a round of applause. And rounding out this powerhouse panel is a rising architect of policy and public engagement, Brother Rick Hart. A proud Morehouse man and a director at the National Association of Counties, Rick has already advised the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, helped shape national outreach under the Biden administration, and supported the work of our brother, Senator Ralph Warnock. Rick brings the clarity of scholarship, the grounding of lived experience, and a deep understanding of how policy, people, and power intersect. Please give him a round of applause. Gentlemen, let's begin. You know, each day, America, we turn on our TVs and there's something new that happens. And each day we look at ourselves and we are wondering, why are we still here at times? The courts are making changes, the media is spewing a lot of rhetoric, and often we find that the very officials that we've elected are actually the ones not protecting us. In a few words, could each of you share how you define this moment? And I want to start with Brother Ike.
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure you can define it in a few words. It will take a lifetime to describe what has happened over the last 60 or 70 days. But I'm reminded of something that I read a couple of weeks ago when I was at the Clinton Library in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I remember seeing all of the powerful messages of hope, of the greatness of our nation, and looking at the photographs around the museum of all of the pictures of people who've contributed to this great nation. And I've said to myself, how did we get to this point? How do we get to the point where our democracy is in peril? And it comes to one of two things, in my opinion, that we need to be mindful of. We didn't get here because of one person. We didn't get here overnight. We got here because of an attitude of a nation and a large number of people who are satisfied with where we are headed. I want you to think of the young lady who provided the poem at the inauguration of Joe Biden. She said, there are some in this nation who would rather shatter democracy rather than to share it. Let me repeat that. There are some in this nation who would rather shatter democracy rather than to share it. The only mistake she made in that statement, it is not some, it is a very large number of people who would rather shatter democracy rather than to share it. And so that's the question we have before us. How do we carve out, as a people who suffered for so long and who now see ourselves at the gate of power and influence, run the risk of being shut out altogether, and we cannot share in the very essence of what democracy means? My view is that it requires strategic coalition building and a commitment for us to recognize that we're in a fight for a very long time, and we need to be prepared for it. It does not mean that we fight every day. I remember many years ago of going to Vietnam, and my assumption prior to going there in preparation was that Vietnam was a continuous fight each and every day. When you fought against the Viet Cong, it was a fight each and every day. I realized something while there, that they only fought at certain periods of time when they were well prepared and we had the advantage. And what we need to do is to be selective in our fights. But when we fight, we're well prepared, we build a coalition, and we fight as though our democracy is at stake, and continue to fight until we're successful.
Brother Craven.
Hard to follow that. First of all, good evening to all of you brothers and sisters. Good evening, brothers and sisters. It's an honor to be here, Brother Cravens. Is that better? Good evening, brothers and sisters. It's an honor to be here. First of all, Brother Chief of Staff and Moderator, thank you for having me. I'm a proud member of PUL. I have to say that. Last time I spoke, I didn't welcome my brothers and brag, so I got ragged, so I wanted to say that tonight. Brother Leggett, thank you, sir. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your leadership. I'm not going to repeat what you said, but I could not have said it any better. I had lunch recently with Brother Horace Dawson. 99-year-old Brother Dawson met me for lunch, former ambassador to Botswana. And I said, Brother Dawson, I have to be on a panel for the Eastern Region Convention coming up soon, and the first question is going to be, what do we do? I said, you're 99 years old, Brother Dawson, help me. Tell me, how did you survive the 60s? How did you get through Jim Crow? How did you get through? You must have some wisdom. You've seen this before. Tell me, what is the message I should give to the brothers and to the sisters at the panel? He looked at me, Brother Leggett, he said, unprecedented. I have no words for what we are living through, Brother Cravens. But if I could offer some advice to you, Brother Cravens, this is a time where we must also focus on self. Brother Leggett gave us instructions about how we are going to coalition and build and do those things, and we'll talk about that. But brothers, what I am doing right now, and sisters, I'm also using this as a time for self-reflection. I didn't have anything to do with this election turning out the way it turned out. I worked for the last president, I voted, I worked, gave money, did all those things. Black folks didn't have anything to do with this output that happened. Some of you may have forgotten to vote, and we'll talk about you later at the smoke. Some of you might have voted wrong. We'll talk about you later at the smoke. But by and large, our black women consistently have done the right thing in this country. And although no one ever gives brothers the credit they deserve, we're number 2. So I'm going to use this time also, in addition to what Brother Leggett said, for some self-reflection and some self-healing and some opportunity to brotherhood and some opportunity to spend time with my family and some opportunity to appreciate the things that I do have, so that when it is time, and we'll talk about that in these next questions, to fight and to get together and strategize, I'm going to be in a good place. I am at peace, sisters. As chaotic as things are, in some strange way, maybe it's because it's Holy Thursday and y'all chose to do this conference during Holy Week. I am at peace also, because out of chaos, and our people know this better than anybody else, comes opportunity. And we're the most resilient people on the face of the planet. And so I'm going to ask you, brothers and sisters, that in addition to what Brother Leggett said, I want us to also forgive one another and ask for forgiveness. I want us to give one another more grace than we've ever given one another. I want us to stop killing one another. I want us to deal with some of the issues. We need to get our house clean and healthy as well, so that when we do plan, we do strategize, we do fight in the next election, we're going to feel good about one another when we do it as well. So let's take this opportunity to catch our breath too. Let's use this opportunity to treat each other a little bit better. Let's use this opportunity to pray for one another. Let's use this opportunity, and I'm a Catholic boy, but I'm going to preach tonight, Brother Leggett. I am at peace because I had nothing to do with this. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to plan, to learn from my adversaries, and to develop my own playbook, so that when that time comes again, when we have the power and we'll know what we to do. Brother Leggett mentioned something. I ran the Minority Business Development Agency for Joe Biden. The agency became permanent in 2021, but was created by Richard Nixon in 1969. Right now, I have this, I don't consider it an honor, but I'm the first and only Undersecretary of Minority Business Development in this country. May end up being the only ever, if this administration has its way. Brother Leggett said something. The agency existed for 52 years, and it was taken away basically just like that. We are to blame for that too. We've been comfortable. We've been complacent. Even during those administrations where we thought we were in power, we were really tagging along and being quiet and enjoying the parties at the White House. Brothers and sisters, let's really spend some time these next couple of months really doing some self-inflect, some self-retrospect, some self-planning. Brother Hart?
Thank you. And last but not least, Brother Rick Hart.
Thank you, Brother Vinay. Very, very hard to follow Brother Leggett and Brother Cravens with what they just shared. My name is Rick Hart, and I'm a proud member of the Iota Upsilon Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the host chapter of this 93rd Eastern Regional Convention here in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm going to try to answer this question with the aim to not be provocative when I say this, but I don't think there's another way. We are experiencing a 5-alarm fire as to the state of this republic and the democracy that lies within it. We have a president, and granted, I don't think that I need to extrapolate on everything that's going on that's wrong right now, but I'm going to get into a list of reasons as to why. We have a president that is actively ignoring the United States Supreme Court and every appellate court decision prior to that because his administration mistakenly sent a man with legal residency, legal status, to a foreign country, threw him in a gulag, and he's ignoring a co-equal branch of government, the United States Supreme Court. We have federal agencies being shuttered by the world's richest man. Even when the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Mellons ran the railroads, oil, whole 9 yards 115, 120 years ago, they did not have the impact of this scale as to the way in which our interagency process worked day in and day out. Thousands of people, dedicated public servants, have lost their jobs for really no good reason other than the president agrees that agencies are out to get them. And it's disproportionately impacted this area more so than any other region in the country. Research institutions, Harvard University, is now having to fight for its tax-exempt status and might lose its federal funding for research purposes because this president does not agree with the way in which the university operates. This is a very, very scary time. And I don't think that anyone in the room needs to be reminded of that. But one thing that I want to get across today, one point that I want to make ultimately, is that everything that's on the line in this moment is too damn important for us to not fight for right now. Our healthcare, housing, our schools, the way in which we live day in and day out, we can't give up in this exact moment, and we have to push back against these offensive aggressions against our way of life and who we are as a people, ultimately. This is a direct attack, a direct assault on Black Americans and other marginalized populations, the disabled, our children, students, immigrants, the working poor, so on and so forth. And we have to rise to this occasion and meet the moment ultimately.
Brother Leggett, you've held space in rooms that weren't built for us. And you didn't occupy the seat, you actually expanded the table. As the first Black man to lead Montgomery County, what resistance did you face in making equity more than just a buzzword?
I'm not sure we have enough time for that. Let me do this by way of a story. 3 weeks ago, I was honored by Montgomery County, whereby they named the official government headquarters, our executive office building, after me. And Councilmember Freedsom and his colleagues, 11 of those voted in the county executive, made that happen. Now I say that to connect something. When I first ran for public office in Montgomery County, the county, only 6% African American, 6%, not 16, not 60, 6, countywide. We had never elected a person of color to any countywide or any county political position. I was not just the first Black person to win. I was the first person of any color to win a county political office in Montgomery County. Now, the reason I'm saying that here, in fact, when I ran the first time, I did not even put my photograph on the campaign literature. It was just that bad. But right here in Montgomery County, there was something that was special here. IUL. A person by the name of Roscoe Nix. I don't know if you know of Roscoe Nix. Roscoe Nix just did not open the door for me. He knocked the door down. I was reluctant to even run for political office. We couldn't get people to run for office. I helped form an organization to encourage others to run. And finally, Roscoe Nix said to me at one point, said, you talk the talk, you're gonna walk the walk. And he said, listen, brother. Now, he really didn't say brother. It started with an N and ended with an R. He said, Roscoe said, you are it and you're gonna run. So with that limited population base, and with the organization and the efforts of people in IUL, and the support of Roscoe Nix, Hanley Norman, and so many other people who helped along the way, we won. Not only did we win at that point, but countywide races, including 4 for county council, 3 at county executive, and in Montgomery County, that's the largest office, the highest office in the county. We ran 7 times, 28 years, and never had a close election, and the African-American population in my races never got beyond 14%.
Round of applause.
That's a reflection of the brothers of IUL, the Roscoe Nix, and all the other people who helped make that possible. But I had difficult days in terms of the barriers and challenges that I faced. I once read something about Jackie Robinson, and I did not fully understand it at the time. We have to understand that Jackie Robinson was not the best African-American player when he was selected to serve with the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was not. There were several others far better than Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was the best African-American who could withstand the challenges and difficulties he had to go through. So when Branch Ritchie selected Jackie Robinson, he didn't select him just on his talent. If he was looking just for talent, he would have selected someone else. He selected him because he was prepared to withstand the rigors. And I remember that through all the time that I served, that I was not just making a place for myself, but for others to follow. Remembered what happened to him. And despite all the success that I had, I recall in the last election, and just to give you one example, of the last election, now I have now served 4 times at large as a county council member, 2 times at that point as the county executive, the highest office of the county, win an overwhelming election, and now I'm running for the 3rd time as county executive. And I'm driving to a polling station the night before the election to put up a sign. Now you say, why would you be doing? Well, I had this habit that I would place signs at certain polls around the county. No matter how it felt, I had a ton of volunteers, but I was gonna put the signs up at these particular locations. I was so enamored about doing that and had this suspicion that every election I placed the signs up at the same location. Now, once in a while, I would drive up there and some of my signs would already be there. I would look at that and say, no, that's wrong. I would take my sign down and put the sign up that I brought, because I said I won the first time, I won every election with this, and I'm gonna do it my way. Well, as I was driving to the last polling station, I looked back at the back of the mirror, and there was a police siren going off. I said, oh myself, was I driving too fast? And I had a baseball cap on, I had a sweater on, I was in jeans, and it turned out to be the county's park and planning police. And out stepped a gentleman, an officer, probably about 6'7", 280 pounds. He would make Hulk Hogan look like a midget. He gets out and he starts yelling and cursing at me. He was going off. I'm at this point the sitting county executive in my own county. And the guy's walking toward me and he's getting closer to me. And all of a sudden, on the other side of the same car, gets out a white officer. She gets out, and she sees this commotion. This guy yelling and screaming at me, and she started walking. I could see the expression on her face. She was like, "Is that county executive? Is that Leggett?" And she face expression was like, "Oh my God, that cannot be him. We can't be out here in the middle of the night about to jack up the county. This just cannot be." So she gets close to the commotion. And the first thing out of her mouth was, "This is a rookie officer. He's from Howard County, and he don't know who you are." She throws him under the bus. Now, the point that I made to myself was, wait, had this been one of my young volunteers, a 15-year-old kid, who'd reacted immaturely in that situation, what would have happened? That happened to me as the sitting county executive in my own county. And so I say to you that I have been through a lot with this. I'm reminded of all the things that people before me, the story that you read about the Jackie Robinson of the time, whereby they had to suffer, endure a lot. I did. But it was greater and larger cause that I think it was worth it, because I'm thinking about our children and grandchildren. But the way this started was Hanley Norman, Roscoe Nix, and the people of IUL who looked at those odds and said, "We're going to get you through that door."
Amen, amen. You dropped some jewels. And everything that you're offering, we could like take this on the road. So I want you to end the program for us, because I think we need to get more out of you while we have you. And you have a lot that could change the landscape for these young brothers in this room, and those of us my age and older as well, because the reality is you faced trauma in such a way and have survived it that you now have the ability to afford us directions on how we could take our next steps.
Well, I don't want to leave with a negative note. Think about this, for those of you who are outside of Maryland. We stand here today in this great state with an African-American governor, an African-American attorney general, an African-American treasurer of the state, an African-American who's the speaker of the House of Delegates in Maryland, an African-American who is a U.S. senator in Maryland, 2 U.S. congressmen, county executives, and mayors throughout the entire state. And by the way, that governor I mentioned, he's an alpha. I say that because far too often we look at situations in a degree of hopelessness. I'm a very positive person. Very few people would have known the challenges and difficulties I went through. We have a struggle ahead for us, but we've also accomplished a great deal. We didn't start this overnight, as I stated before, but we started with a very fundamental background of a religious people who believed in something bigger and better than ourselves. Let's not let that go. We started with people who were intelligent, hardworking, responsible, and responsive. We have a bright future ahead of us if we're prepared to work for it. Democracy is not cheap. It is not easy. It is difficult. And for all of those who are included therein, we have to fight for it. But this fight is worthwhile. I started off at a point in time where up until the age of 18 and a half, until I went to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I had not been beyond 40 miles of my home. A couple of years ago, I landed on the Antarctica. And while I was there, I noticed people taking out balloons, champagne, were celebrating. And all of a sudden, I turned to my wife, and I was teary-eyed. She said, "What is wrong?" I said, "You remember, I was 19 before I actually went beyond 40 miles. And what they were celebrating on the Antarctica was the fact that they had been to all 7 continents. And I said to her, I have now been to all 7 continents. Not only that, I've been probably around the world 4 or 5 times. How did a kid from segregation, Jim Crow, Alexandria, Louisiana, living in a 3-room house with 12 brothers and sisters, ultimately end up as the county executive, one of the largest, most affluent communities all of America? Is because the principles that we apply in our fraternity, the people that we have helping us, and the goal and the aspiration of our brothers and sisters in this nation was worth it. And we're prepared to make that sacrifice, do the hard work that is required, because there's something bigger and better than us. Let's fight for that. Let's not return to the days of the past, but recognize that our community, our people are worth fighting for this, and clearly, our nation is worth fighting for this. Let's be positive. Let's go out and do this. We have an opportunity to show the world what we are capable of accomplishing, and this is the time, if ever, we need to demonstrate that. Thank you.
Amen. Please. Amen. Please. Brother Leggett. Amen. I know that that wasn't the official direction of our program, but I could not let you pause when you were on a roll and you had information to pour out to us. And so I thank you for your leadership, your wisdom, and your willingness to impart. Brother Craven.
How you want me to follow that, man?
Listen, man. I ain't got nothing for you.
I mean, how I follow that?
We're going to have to make it work, brother. No, listen.
No, thank you.
On economic power and political will,
Yes.
in your view, what must black leadership look like if we're serious about building intergenerational wealth, policy that reflects our lived experiences, and institutions that work for us?
Thank you, brother. I want to talk a little bit about leadership. Black America needs 2 types of leaders. We need leaders of the black community, people who are unapologetically black, people who are part of the Divine Nine, people who run our organizations like the Urban League, the NAACP, those organizations that our community has consistently and constantly relied on. And brothers, those of you in the room, you young brothers, we absolutely need some of you to be black leaders. We also need leaders who just happen to be black. Brother Leggett talked about Brother Moore. Brother Moore is the governor of all of Maryland, not just black Maryland, all of Maryland. But Brother Moore is unapologetically black, unapologetically alpha. We need brothers who in corporate America who just happen to be black, but who are unapologetically black, and who get that and who understand that when they own a business or run a business that they have to cater to different people, but their shared experiences, as you said, Brother Moderator, their lived experiences still guide who they are. We as black people, like our Jewish friends and brothers and sisters and our Irish friends, brothers and sisters, we have to be unapologetic about how much we love our heritage and our culture and who we are just as much as they do as well. And so what I think we need our young brothers to hear today, and maybe not so young brothers, is we need both. And we have to be able to work across the lines to make sure that both of those brothers, those types of brothers and sisters, are being successful. Those who are black leaders, as well as those who are leaders who happen to be black. Now, when it comes to black economics, what I would say to you, and I was talking to my black, AKA wife, on the way here about this question. We are living at a time, Brother Leggett and Brother Hart, where immediate gratification seems to be the standard. And if that is not what we get, then we're disappointed. That's never been good for black folks. It's never been who we are. It's never been part of our lived experience. If we are really going to build intergenerational wealth, we start planning for it today, and we make decisions sometimes today that we may not even see the benefit of, but that our grandkids may see the benefit of. Brother Leggett, that legacy you're talking about in Alexandria, Louisiana, I had it in Opelousas, Louisiana, 30 minutes from where you grew up. My grandfather couldn't vote when he was 40 years old in Louisiana. I was a state senator at 40 years old in Louisiana. My grandfather and my grandmother had to endure and put up with stuff with the hope that someday things would be better down the road. We as African Americans must remember that. I think sometimes we forget that. We need to invest in our own businesses. We need to invest in each other's businesses. We need to partner with the right people, marry the right people. My wife told me to put that in there. Marriage is an economic tool too, brothers. I know I would not be where I was had my wife not made me save that money, invest that money.
Amen.
And so we, in some ways, need to return to our history. And so that's why in the first part of the program, and I said, I'm using this time as a self-reflection. I'm using this part of my time at 52 to really look inward to decide how I'm going to be ready for the next iteration. And I would suggest to you, brothers and sisters, that you do the same thing. Use this as an opportunity to prepare. Use this as an opportunity to plan. Use this as an opportunity to set the steps for your children and your grandchildren and for you and for your spouse so that you can be successful. That is black economic. That is how we're going to be successful. That's black political power. But it has to start somewhere, and I think it can start with you tonight. It can start with Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated right now. It's who we've been. Let's not forget our history. Let's not forget our legacy. Let us go back to the book. Let us go back to the book. The plan still works today, Brother Denny. Still works right now. It's still relevant today. So that's my advice.
Thank you. As we talk about self-reflection, Brother Hart, you went from organizing on the yard at Morehouse to advising inside the White House. That's a unique vantage point. What does it mean to bring youthful, black, male, values-driven leadership into federal policy spaces that often undervalue lived experiences that we're talking about here? And how are you ensuring that your voice doesn't just become the echo in the room, but actually shapes the outcomes?
That's a great question, Brother Vinay, and really hard to follow both the Brother County Executive and Brother Undersecretary Cravens. I will say that in my experience, whether it's been working on competitive swing state campaigns, Capitol Hill, the White House, one thing that roiled me for a while and continues to linger in terms of how I see myself and how I digest information, work the jobs that I've had, things of that nature, is having some semblance of imposter syndrome. And it really did roil me, I think, especially at the very beginning of my career, where I found myself sitting at tables, found myself engaging in conversations that at a very young age I never would have imagined in a million years that I would be contributing to or being asked my opinion in. And I can think of one or two times distinctly in those early moments where that imposter syndrome impacted me so much so that I did not contribute to that conversation the way in which I should have. And what happened as a result of that, with me being the youngest person in the room, probably the most progressive in the room, the most forward-thinking, I'd give myself credit for, along with being the only black person in the room, the only person of color, the only black male, the only alpha man at the table. What ended up happening when I didn't contribute to those conversations was the wrong decision was made that resulted in a disastrous outcome. And I learned very early that when you have the awesome responsibility and the privilege of being that voice, you have to utilize it effectively, utilize it well, and be unabashed in it. Because if you don't do it, no one else will. And you'll find yourself time and time again, if you don't contribute, watching as time goes, bad policy decisions made, bad outcomes being resulted in. And you have to, out of respect for those that have come before you, you have to use that perch, have to use that position to do the right thing and advocate what will advance us as a people ultimately.
Thank you. I'm going to pose this question and feel free to jump in as you see fit. How do we move from simply speaking truth to power to designing and owning the systems that hold power? You can take this.
I'll say this. We have to have an agenda. You probably have 3 Democrats on the stage, but I want to be very clear the message tonight. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity 4, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, though, is not a democratic organization. We are an organization of principles, ideas, ideals of brotherhood. Black folks need to have permanent interest and realize that we don't always have permanent friends or permanent enemies. And so I don't want it to fall on deaf ears tonight that I want to be very clear. We must go to Congress, we must go to the state legislatures, we must go to the county commissions, and our message should never change. And we will be friends with whomever listens. Brother Whitney Young, when he was the executive director of the Urban League, came out with the Main Street Marshall Plan. And what he said, he was a World War II veteran, he said, we invested millions and millions of dollars in Europe after World War II, but never invested in the inner cities of America. And so he had this plan called the Main Street Marshall Plan, which the Urban League continues to talk about today, where we invest in America. When Lyndon Johnson was the president, Whitney Young went and talked about the Main Street Marshall Plan, and Social Security and affirmative action, and a lot of things that came out of the 1960s were part of the Main Street Marshall Plan that Whitney Young and the Urban League and Alpha Phi Alpha made a permanent part of American history. Johnson leaves, and the next president is who? Nixon. And Nixon and Whitney Young don't see eye to eye the same way that Johnson and Whitney Young do. Whitney Young did not let that deter him. He understood that he was speaking for Black America, and things don't change based upon who's the president. We stay on our mission. When Whitney Young died, guess who gave his eulogy? Richard Nixon. Because he had learned to respect that this man stood for something. And so what I would say to us, brothers, tonight as we think about what's next, and I have the honor of chairing the World Policy Council, which is the think tank of Alpha Phi Alpha, and I want to thank our General President for giving me that awesome responsibility during this time. But what I will say to you, I will work with you all to come up with a Project 2020 something for Alpha Phi Alpha, for Black America. I'm not going to worry about what other people do, I'm going to worry about what we need done. That's what we should be doing. We should realize that we have a message, we have a case, we have an agenda, we have a doctrine, and we're looking for allies. And we're looking for allies. And so I'm hoping, brothers and sisters, that as we think about how we plan for the rest of 2025 and further, that is what we're thinking about. What does Black America need today? What does Black America need tomorrow? How do we get there? And who's going to be there with us? And we need to be unapologetic about it. We need to run and be proud of it. And be proud of it.
You want to tackle?
I think that one aspect of the moment that I think that we find ourselves in is we're past the inflection point. We're at a make or break moment, ultimately. And with that, we have to acknowledge that in order to get out of where we are in this exact moment, has to be some understanding of the collective power and will and might of us. If you find that institutions that should be representing you or should be advocating for you are not doing so, you find that your elected representatives at the federal level or the state level or the local level are not doing it adequately in this moment, we need to find a way to ensure that there are parallel institutions or other ways of thinking that can ultimately take over the discourse and advocate accordingly. Whether that's tapping into emerging forms of media that are unapologetically black, whether it be bolstering our existing think tanks and policy organizations, or creating that of our own in this exact moment, as Brother Cravens just spoke about. We need to find a way to harness, again, that will and that might of us as a group of people together being black people, to get, again, dig us out of this moment that we find ourselves in and advance from that period moving forward.
I received a call after the recent presidential election from a former student of mine at Howard. And he said to me, I remembered a opening conversation speech that you gave at Howard University. And he said, I didn't understand it quite that well at the time, but now that I do, after the presidential election, the day after the election. He said, we lost, as Democrats, so many Hispanic voters out of our college. You warned us of that in 2014. I said at that point in time, that we no longer, as African Americans, be the largest minority in this country, that there was a rising tide of African American votes and to some degree Asian voters, and that we need to build real strategic coalitions because it will be in our interest to do so. Strategic in the sense that we're just simply not talking a game with them, but we're really partnering with them. Now, the other side recognized that, and over the last 8 years have aggressively gone after that cohort of voters. We have to recognize where we stand today. And we need this coalition building, not just in name, but in actual practice. It means at times that you may not always endorse an African-American candidate. It means that to reach across the aisle and support someone else. Because standing alone, we are not going to get the ultimate results that we want. Our numbers will not justify that in many places. Keep in mind that if you look around this country, virtually every place where it is feasible to elect an African American based on our numbers, we have done so. We have more people in the Congress than we've ever had. We've virtually locked the numbers of all African Americans who could be elected in African American districts. Yet we still have not achieved the power that we need. So until we are able to coalesce better, and especially build with others, we will be limited. Now, it means also working more aggressively with people who don't agree with us. There are some conservative African Americans who are fine people on both sides, as I've once heard. But that doesn't mean all conservative African Americans. There are some short-line African Americans. Do people know what short-line African Americans mean? Well, it means this. You take two people who are somewhat reasonably qualified, or one maybe even less qualified as African American. They say see two lines. There's this long line of very highly qualified African Americans who are being elected, but there's a long line to go through that. Then you look to your right, You said, I don't see anybody in that line. Or more conservative, more MAGA, the far right of the far right. And all of a sudden, this average person gets in the short line. Not only do they get in the short line, but they're at the front of the line. Front of the line. Not only that, they're going to cut the line behind them and not let anybody else get in. And so when you see all these highly so-called qualified African Americans who are on mega steroids, look at their backgrounds, look at their qualifications. There's only one of them in the entire cabinet, and he's at HUD. Not vice president, not the attorney general, not the secretary of state, not the head of transportation, not any of the significant cabinet positions anywhere in the cabinet. They got in the short line. So let's coalesce with people who we can work with. Let's not put aside our brothers and sisters who have to be Latino. Let's look at people who are in the Jewish community, people who are white, everyone to build this coalition. We cannot do it alone. We are smarter, we are better, and we can build this coalition in a way that I think will be successful. That's the key to our success politically. Making sure we have strategic, real coalitions. Because the other side recognizes that if they ever are able to build that together, and the last person who did all of that, to pull all of those units together, was President Obama. He broke the code. And once he broke the code, the word was, we just cannot defeat him and what he represents. We have to destroy that. Because given the numbers, if they're working together, and they're working as aggressively, as unified as he's brought them together, we will never win another presidential election. We have to stop this and stop this now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just heard the value of legacy, the intentionality of self-reflection, and the importance of leadership from these three phenomenal speakers. Please give them a round of applause.
Make sure this thing works. Brothers, thank you so much for your contribution, edifying us tonight here at the 93rd Eastern Regional Convention. On behalf of myself and Brother Omer, we have a plaque for you to take back and put in your office. I don't know if you have any space in that office, brother, because it's just a long list of accomplishments. But this was certainly not only music, but food for our ears. And I want to thank everybody that stuck around tonight for the public program and came out. There are refreshments outside that we should partake after this. But this was certainly a great thing. And thank you, Brother Vinay. You worked out the microphone issues. We certainly appreciate that. That coalition building thing, and folks have to recognize that this MAGA movement is a reaction to exactly that coalition. And we could feel it. Those of us that are in politics like me, we could feel it long before it happened because of the disrespect and the just negative energy we could feel. So we know we have some work to do. We continue to work with outstanding and great brothers like you going forward. So thank you for participating tonight. And where's our our head photographer? There he is. We got looking like you got to come take these pictures.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for coming out. Please join us in the rear for the reception.